would you do if you run completely out of cash? What would you do if you wanna cut a dash? Polish up the shoes, throw on something fine. We don't talk about diesels, I'm running on style this time. Cruising down the boulevard, wheels gleam in the night. Beige leather interior, looking chic alright. Money's a little tight, but I'm feeling brand new. Living large tonight, no budget reviews. Blues! What do you mean I'm not getting paid for this?
You know something, viewers, I am a very, very strange person, but one of the things I've been trying to do for many, many years is get one of these Vauxhall Astra Gs on the channel, and today I have succeeded. This is a 1999 Vauxhall Astra Mark IV or Astra G 1.6 LS, so it's in fleet spec, and very, very strangely at the time Vauxhall sold a 1.4 Astra that had more power than this. It's utterly weird. But 1.6 is like a holdover from some earlier 90s Vauxhall, sort of like the Mark III Cavalier and the Mark III Astra. I drove a 1997 Astra 1.6 LS e-drive recently with this engine. So it's not very fast and not very powerful. I think it has 73 horsepower. But it's fine, because when did you last see an Astra G in this sort of, an early one like this, a pre-facelift one? Weirdly, the track at the back looks a lot sort of narrower than I thought it would be. Maybe the higher specification ones had a wider track, I don't know. But very, very low mileage, 36,000 miles from new, no rust, and in virtually perfect condition. There's not really much to say. There are some marks on this car, but you can't really see them on the video. Trust me when I say that this car actually costs some money. You can pick these up all day long for under £1,000, of course you can. So we're okay for no budget reason, but particularly the car costs more like two actually, when it's on 27,000 miles. It is an absolute delight to be in the presence of something like this. First of all, take a look in the boot. There's something very, very familiar in here that a lot of you will like as well. Yes, we've got the 20th anniversary edition of Trivial Pursuit, which is probably about the same age as the car, to be honest. So you pull the boot carpet up from this corner here. We've got a ski hatch in there as well. And you can see we've got a very, very nice spare wheel. Look at this, viewers. Still got pimples on it and everything. Yeah, no rust. Astra G's rusted like many other cars at the time. This one, nothing. To see one in this sort of spec as well, it's not the Envoy, which is the base model. It is one up from the base model, this LS, but proper like fleet spec. I'm sure the deals on these were brilliant back in the day. Let's have a little seat in the front. One of the things about this in comparison with, say, a Golf or a Focus, they're all launched in 1998, various versions of the Golf, Focus and the Astra, is that it just looks a bit of plain out on the outside. It's not a bad design. It just, compared with something like those, it just seems to be a little bit more old-fashioned, which is fine. Interior is good. Again, quite a sort of plain interior, but everything's very, very functional. It feels quite well made, actually. We've got the controls in here, no air conditioning in this LS model. Driver and passenger airbags. It feels a little bit better made than an Astra F or Mark III. I have just driven one of those actually, because David, who owns this, his brother has a Mark III with a V6 engine in it, so I had a go in it. I mean, this interior does feel a lot nicer. Obviously, this is a much lower mileage one, but yeah, there's no squeaks or rattles in here. Everything feels just really well made. But obviously, we're going for an upgrade in quality. But one thing I have noticed, though, viewers, and some of you will immediately get excited about this, we've got the blanking plate there for the good old Corsa B mirror switch. We've also got very similar controls in here to a lot of other Vauxhalls of the time. So I think the Astra S were like this as well, with the fog lights and then the light switch on there, very similar. And the Mark III Cavalier indicator and wiper stalks that were in everything, like with Lotus Elise and everything else. And of course on here we've got some stereo controls. Plastic steering wheel, no leather or anything like that. The stereo has been replaced for daily use because David likes to make calls and listen to his music via his phone, which is fine. But you still get original stereo somewhere if you want to put it back in. Ashtray down here. It's not quite as nice as the one in the Mark III for some reason. It sort of gets caught a bit, but it's not bad. Look at this gear lever gator. Gosh, it's one of the only Vauxhalls of this era I've ever seen that had another destroyed gear lever gator. Obviously, that's been replaced, but never mind. The gearbox actually feels really tight in this. Normally, they get really loose in 90s Vauxhalls, but this is fine. Not much else to say really in here. It's just a very sort of conventional interior, but actually quite nicely made. Thank you, autofocus, for ruining my shot. So we've got the display up there. I'll just change hands and we'll have a look at this display, because other than that, there's not an awful lot to say about the interior of this car. Right, there we go. Stereo information stuff is at the top. Obviously, we've got this aftermarket one. It's there. This car's only done 36,000 miles. Wonderful, isn't it? This is like Festival Exceptional sort of concourse section type stuff, isn't it? Because we've only got a windy sunroof. We've not even got an electric sunroof. We've got no electric mirrors. We've got no electric rear windows in this car. But that's the way some of you like this sort of stuff. You're probably kind of shouting at the screen saying, we want to see an Envoy. We want to see it even lower spec. But that's not the way we like things on this channel, viewers, as most of you know. Right, let's sit in the back, shall we, as well? So, windy windows in the back. Again, blanking plates where the electric mirror switches should be. The door handles are quite nice. They're better quality than an Astra F for sure, aren't they? No map pockets, of course, because you need to get a CD or a CDX for that. But, plenty of room in here, actually. If you had an estate or a saloon, you'd have even more room. Of course, you could get a 3-door hatch, a coupe, and a cabriolet as well. Cabriolets and coupes continued a bit longer than 2004, when most of these were discontinued. Yeah, actually, the headroom is quite impressive. It's bigger in here than I thought it would be. For some reason, I always think these cars look a little bit smaller than a Focus, but clearly they're not, because the interior space is really good. The fabric's nice and light in here. It's worn quite well. Yeah, it's quite nice, really. Let's have a look under the bonnet, shall we? Excellent. So this is the good old General Motors Family 1 engine, generating 73 horsepower. The Family 1 dates back to the early 1980s with the Mark I Astra, and I did drive an 81 Astra 1.3 SL, if that makes sense. The S stands for the type of engine and L is the specification. And that was similar in power to this, actually, from, well, far less displacement, 1.3 litres. But this is the 8-valve version of this design, and it continued, I think, until about, the end of production of these in 2004. The Astra H engine is still a Family 1, but it's a bit different from this. They're actually very, very easy to work on. You can see we haven't got a plastic cover over the top of here. We've still got the sort of wiggly rocker cover on there, and the coolant reservoir in here, and the oil filler cap and dipstick. They all look very, very familiar to anyone who's driven a 90s Vauxhall or Opel, of course. So yes, got to do the cam belt on this. Cam belt, you just cover just there. Doesn't look too difficult job to do that. These can blow head gaskets, actually, but it tends to be the cars are just very old and they get high mileage and they go. It's not even that difficult to do if you need to do a head gasket on one of these. So yeah, but the maintenance, pretty good really. You can see most things. Gearbox is just sort of down there somewhere. There's the oil filter there. Yeah, that was one of the things that people used to like about these. The only thing is, the shock absorbers are a bit more expensive than on a Mark III because the suspension design is very different. But apart from that, it makes a lot of sense as maybe like a starter classic if you consider these to be classics. I mean, I do, because all of them now are over 20 years old. So there we go. This car is over 25 years old. Right, let's go out for a spin, shall we? viewers, what's this Astra G with the fabulous Lotus developed suspension like to drive? You know what, it's actually pretty good. Because the car is so low mileage, it's only done 36,000 miles. The gearbox is really nice. Vauxhall gearboxes are renowned for getting a bit floppy. This one's brilliant. So this might only have a 1.6 engine with 73 horsepower, but that's enough for probably most of the people who would be buying a sort of low spec Astra back in the day. You could also get a 1.4 with 88 horsepower, which is bizarre, isn't it? That actually had more power than this one. Later 8 valve 1.6 Astras at 85 horsepower. You could also get a 1.6 16 valve engine later on, which had either 101 or 106 horsepower in the twin port version. Then you, the 1.8 engines, you either had 115 or 123 horsepower depending on the year. Then the 2-litre engine, which had 134 horsepower. Later on, with the facelift occurred in about 2001, that was changed for a 2.2 engine with 143 horsepower. That's not necessarily the most reliable engine. I wouldn't recommend that necessarily. And then we have the turbo engines, which are very, very crazy. One with 189 horsepower, and then one with 197 horsepower. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. We do talk about instead is actually how very well behaved this quite basic old car is. Because the mileage is so low on it and the gearbox is nice, it sort of helps to accentuate the other things like the suspension and the steering, and it's really good actually. You can tell Lotus has had a hand in this car because it's very delicately set up. It's quite surprising actually when you look at the exterior design and you think that will drive not very well, but you'd be absolutely wrong. So the least powerful engine in this country, you get a 1.2 in some other places, but not over here. And it's lively enough, it's fine. But the car just feels really well set up. Everything feels really tight and well engineered. And you can see why that is the case in comparison with a Mark III, which is absolutely fine, by the way. But this feels so much tighter and more modern. And you can see if you could get somebody into a showroom and actually drive this, they'd think actually, you know what, Focus is pretty good, but so's this. I actually prefer this to drive to say a Mark IV Golf in some ways. It just feels, you know, quite well set up. It's got this sort of good ride and handling balance. Obviously if you went for a sporty model you could have a, you know, firmer suspension and things. This is fine. The only real lacking thing is the power, and like, you know, if you went for the 1.4 you'd have more power than this. So I'm maybe not a fan of this particular engine and the lack of power. I see the 16 valve version would be fine, but I also I think I would fancy something like, I don't know, a saloon in dark green with a beige leather interior. I do like a nice beige leather interior, views, if you hadn't already noticed over all this time. Yeah, brakes feel good. Everything feels really tight now. There's no rattles from anywhere inside the car. Something that's 26 years old is remarkable. Someone's either really looked after this, or these were very well made cars, or both. And yeah, it's fine. This is more kind of festive and exceptional type thing, or even Ian Seabrook from the Hub Nut channel, he'd love this sort of stuff. I quite like it, but obviously higher specification with a slightly more powerful engine is more kind of my bag. So yeah, 1.6 16 valve, maybe a 1.8, something like that would be fine, even the 2-litre. Don't particularly want to get involved with the 2.2s, but there we go. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed, viewers. I like this car. I like it quite a lot. I'm not surprised Jeremy Clarkson redrove it in 1998. he was also quite impressed with the one that he drove. He found the chassis to be good. Lloyd just obviously did their work properly. Let's look at some Astra G trim levels, viewers. So we have the Envoy was bottom of the range, then the LS like this one, stepping up to the Club, and then things like the CD, the Active, the CDX, the Comfort, the Elegance, the Enjoy, the Expression, and some sporty stuff like the GSI, the Sport, the SRI, the SXI, and then the strange .com edition, which was actually a way to get cars lower priced by ordering them online. So viewers, should you consider an Astra G for your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? I don't see why not. I mean, you want to get one that's not rusty and isn't all beaten up, so maybe spend a little bit more and get one for maybe £1,500 to £2,000 like this car. But yeah, they really aren't that expensive at the moment for these. They're disappearing quite fast because they're old cars now, but these actually were maybe one of the most underrated cars of the late 1990s because the Focus and the Golf sort of stole the limelight a bit, but they're also very good. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and we shall see you again soon for some more inexpensive motoring.